Howdy, gang, and welcome to another edition of Terror Time Tea. This will be the last Argento related Terror Time Tea. Aw, aren't you sad about that? Some of you may not be, some of you may be happy. You may be so sick of hearing me talk about Argento, as much Argento as I've been talking about this month. Apologies to anybody that was expecting me to do a pre recorded deep dive into deep red. I was wiped out yesterday. And so, um, thankfully, I didn't have a live stream scheduled that people would have been, really expecting. But for those of you that were saying, where'd that deep dive into deep red go? Well, I'm going to eventually do it. It just won't be in Argento August, unfortunately. Um, but later on this evening, we do have a extra special Friday Foolish, and I forgot to have those commercials on here, so I'm going to play them for everybody during this recording, so that you can see them one last time, the teaser trailer, and also the actual full length commercial that me and Candace put together for this extra special Friday Foolish, the Juices Loose edition. We're going to be talking all things Beetlejuice related in honor of the upcoming Beetlejuice sequel to Beetlejuice. Yeah, you heard me right. There is going to be a sequel, will be released the week of September 6th, which will be next Friday. I know some theaters do things on a Thursday night and some wait till a Friday. So depending on where you are, it may be September 5th when it gets released, maybe September 6th. I myself am planning on going to see it at some point. I'm very excited about it. I've always been a big fan of Beetlejuice anyway. And the fact that, Michael Keaton is returning, Winona Ryder's returning, Catherine O'Hara is returning. So many of the people that we enjoyed in the original Beetlejuice are returning, as well as some newcomers. Jenna Ortega is going to be in this. So, you Jenna Ortega fans, rejoice because she's going to be in the Beetlejuice sequel. Also, if you haven't noticed me wearing this is the alternate Friday Foolish shirt. I think Candace is going to have hers on today a little bit later at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for our extra special Beetlejuice edition, the Juices Loose edition of Friday Foolish. So you will see her wearing a slightly different colored shirt, but with this same design. If you haven't noticed, it does have a cartoon, me and Candace on there, or Candace and I, however you want to say that. Bunch of stuff I'm planning for the shop at deaditesondeck.com. So be sure to be on the lookout for all of that upcoming. I've got some Christmas shirts in the works that I'm going to try to make sure that the designs are available for you to purchase by at least November, in case you're thinking of getting a shirt like that for the horror fan in your life or for yourself. Nothing says that you can't order one for yourself. I'm also planning on putting out a series of Christmas cards that will be available. I haven't pinned down a price. The shirts will be $20 a piece. And the cards, I'll have to get back with you on that. I also want to have them available on the site. Again, that's deaditesondeck.com. And you will be able to buy them in sets. However many t-shirt designs I end up with for the Christmas season will be how many cards I will have in this set. So, and you will get more than one of each kind. And then I've got to pin down a price on that. So, anyway, I was trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to bring up before I got on here. Oh, got to advertise the Joe Bob Briggs Night Marathon, which will be taking place on Shutter tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be an all-nighter, folks. And this gal is planning on being up all night. I got my night marathon survival kit. Steve thinks I'm crazy. He's thinking, you're too old for this, Dana. You're too old for this. But I'm going to do it anyway. And we will see if I survive the night on up until the morning hours. But I've got my night marathon survival kit with my mutant mud coffee. Hopefully it's going to keep me all alert and awake for, I believe they're having 6 movies. I'm going to visit Twitter a little bit later to see if I can maybe figure out what the movies are going to be. I'm going to be a little disappointed if they don't at least show the original Nightmare on Elm Street as one of those 6 movies. Now, Steve told me that Darcy was saying that they weren't going to show any Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but I'm a little suspect of that because why would Shudder recently obtain the rights to the original Nightmare on Elm Street as well as Wes Craven's New Nightmare if they weren't planning on putting these on the Night Marathon? I could be wrong, but let's hope that I'm not, right? We got some watch-alongs coming up this weekend. Saturday will be Tenebrae starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be, I'm not saying I won't do other Argento watch-alongs, but these will be the final 2 for Argento August. Sunday, also starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, will be Phenomena. So be sure to tune in for all of that as we tie up Argento August. And if this seems to be something that resonates with people that they would like to see me do, maybe again next year, and I could cover some different movies that I didn't get to cover this time around, I would be glad to do that. September, we're going to kind of revert back to the regularly scheduled program. Landis Confidential is going to come back. Everybody Wants England's going to come back. And October will be Fulci Fall. So that will be a whole month of a whole lot of Fulci. And one more announcement before I get to the movie I was going to talk about today is that I have scored 2 media passes for Scarefest weekend coming up in October, near the end of October. Me and Steve will probably make the trek and go on Saturday the 20th. And we're going to try to do a lot of coverage from there, just the same way I'm planning on doing at Horror Hound Weekend in a couple of weeks. We will also be doing, or I'm planning to do, a Highway to Hell for both shows, Horror Hound Weekend and also Scarefest weekend as well. So just wanted to let you guys and gals know that. I don't know if Scarefest will be a little bit easier to get some interviews with people, but I'm going to try at Horror Hound and see how things go. And then I'll try again at Scarefest as well. So let's get started before my tea gets cold. I have been sipping on it. And it is, once again, the sinus soother tea because I've been having a lot of trouble with my sinuses as of late. And so I thought that would help. So that's my tea of choice, once again, for this week's Terror Time Tea. So for those of you that watched Apples and Oranges this week on Wednesday, I talked about Giallo. And I talked about that being the worst Argento film that I've seen. And I had not really seen a bad Argento film. And so I asked Steve, I was like, what in your opinion is the worst Argento film? And he said Giallo. Without skipping a beat, he said Giallo. I said, even worse than Dracula 3D? He said, oh yeah. So, I gave it a whirl. I watched it, and I was not impressed, folks. I would have to say, out of all the Argento films that I have seen, this is definitely the worst. So, hence, I'm not going to give this one a good rating. I'm not, like I said Wednesday night, I'm not going to blame Argento totally for this. And I'll tell you this too. It has been my experience that out of all the horror directors I have watched over the years and enjoyed their stuff over the years, every once in a while, all of them have a stinker in there, okay? So I'm sure Argento is no different there, okay? And I did see a couple of people that gave positive reviews to Giallo. I say go for it. If there are things that I think are are decent films. The other people's like, oh God, Dana. So who am I to say that you can't say that Giallo's a decent film? But for me, there were a lot of things wrong with it. It didn't flow well. It didn't seem like an Argento film. The killer to me was ridiculous. There was a scene or a couple of scenes where it appeared he was sucking on a freaking pacifier. I'm like, what? That was super annoying because he was sitting there looking at pictures of girls that he had killed or he was in the process of torturing, and he was going like that all the time, and I'm like, ugh. So very weak killer in an Argento film. Okay, and I thought Steve was like pulling my leg or was mistaken because he told me, he said Adrian Brody plays two different parts, two different characters, and there's no reason for it. And at first I was confused because I thought, well, it looks like Adrian Brody is playing the killer, and I know he's playing the police inspector in this. And it was because I was watching someone's review of the movie after I'd watched it. And they said that they did I think they did an anagram of Adrian Brody's name, and that's how they came up with the name for the killer, who is simply called Giallo, which anybody that is well versed in Giallo films will know that that's Italian for yellow, which had to do with these very, I guess, brutal novels that were done in Italy. And that's why they referred to films that followed that similar formula. And Argento was pretty much at the forefront of that in Italy. Um, why they referred to that genre of films as giallos. But this guy was called Giallo because he was jaundiced and his skin was yellow. And I'm like, okay. So you had these scenes where kids were circling around him when he was a kid going, yellow, yellow, yellow. And I was like, okay, I just very weak story, not a very cohesive story. And some people may tell me, Dana Argento's movies aren't known for being very cohesive or in some cases not making complete sense overall. And I get that. But I thought it was weak too that they had Adrian Brody play the police inspector and the killer. I was like, Steve, why did this need to be done? I don't get this. It wasn't really trying to be clever, I don't think. If that's what they were trying to do, they didn't pull it off very well. So I don't know how much of this was Argento. I don't know how much of it was the producers or the distributors or whatever. Sometimes producers and distributors will play around with the film until it is hardly recognizable to the original film that the director try to film. That's why we have director's cuts and things like that in the age of Blu-rays and 4Ks, and before that DVD, right? So people could watch films as the director originally intended them. And but this movie is so bad, I guess, that Steve doesn't even want to own a physical copy because he doesn't have it on his shelf anywhere, not even in a DVD format. So the plot, though, is basically that a killer, Giallo, kidnaps these women. He takes them back to his place and he tortures them, and then he kills them all. And the kills were okay, and but they didn't really show anything. In the end, they didn't really show anything. I was pretty sure he cut this girl's lips off at one point, and the lead up to it was great. And I understand what people mean when they say, well, sometimes what you don't see is worse than what you do see. But this film didn't even have that going for it. I just felt like it fell flat because when I watched other Argento films, especially his Giallo films, you're looking for that visceral, I can't talk today, visceral approach to the kills, right? Those of us that have seen a lot of Argento, seen a lot of his Giallos, we get used to that same format, that same formula. So when you throw it completely out in the garbage, as far as the formula, you don't even try to change it or anything. You just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I know that's a gruesome description, but that's basically what I feel about it. So, very thin plot, ridiculous killer, not really any kills to write home about. Um, yeah, just overall, not a good film at all. Um, and I'm sorry for the noise. I must be getting messages on Facebook. So I'm not going to stay on here too long and, bore you guys with this. Um, but I may surprise you guys. I'm at least going to give it 2 deadites out of 5 because it had the potential to be a good film. It just didn't turn out to be so. So, would I recommend this one? No, but you are free to check it out. It is on Tubi under a different title, and the title is escaping me right now. But uh, you probably can do a search for Giallo, and something will come up. And if you find it and it's got Adrian Brody in it, then that you probably hit upon the right one. So if you want to watch it, it's not a super long film, so it's not going to be extremely painful for you to get through. But I did find myself with my finger hovering over the fast forward button a few times. Just because when a film's not that great, it seems a lot longer than it actually is. And so that's it for me for Terror Time Tea this week. And stay tuned for some more, uh, hopefully, good or great programming from me. And I hope y'all keep watching because I've got a lot of things in my wheelhouse coming up. I hope you will check out the site at deaditesondeck.com and see what kind of designs and all kinds of goodies that I've got up on the site. But anyway, I'm off like a dirty shirt. Before I go, I want to remind everybody, as I always do, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday, folks. And we're heading into a holiday weekend. So enjoy it. And I will see everybody next time.